Folks, I'm here with Bob Best, who's a former councilman and running now for mayor of Miami Springs. Bob, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for the opportunity, Nestor. I appreciate it.
So why don't we start off, people know you've been a councilman before and you've served many years. I think maybe one of the longest serving residents who served as council. But folks who don't know, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. Well, I'm not one to like to blow my horn, but I'll do the best I can. I was born in on New Year's Eve, 1952, in New York City. Grew up in New Jersey,
Okay.
in a small town called Livingston, founded in 1813. So in 2013, they celebrated their 200th centennial.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I bring that up because it just so bridges, it morphs to what Miami Springs is. And there's very fond memories there. Basically constructed and laid out the same as Miami Springs, actually. Nonetheless, I attended school there for 8 years. And then went to college. I went to Seton Hall Prep,
Okay.
which is the high school for the university on the same campus.
Oh.
And I always tell people I enjoyed high school a lot more than college. I really did. But anyway, from there I went on to, I was accepted like Duquesne and St. Louis University and a couple others that I wasn't interested in going to. But I chose St. Louis University, which was 1,000 miles away.
Right.
And my first recollection in St. Louis when I got there was they're 5 years behind the times from New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I finished up there. I studied. My majors were the triple. They were political science, communications, and English, which I find the English to have served me very well.
Yeah.
It's possibly the best thing you could ever major in because it's a springboard in anything, to law, to medicine, to journalism.
Right. Yeah.
All of it. And I studied a fair amount of journalism as well. And from there, I went back to New York, or New Jersey. Yeah, New York. My family had moved to Saratoga Springs. And I was working at a ski resort and driving a cab. And one day I double parked and went into the Air Force recruiting office.
Okay.
And I went in there, my hair was down below my shoulders at the time. And so the guy didn't pay much attention to me. He didn't take me seriously, obviously. And so I grabbed some brochures, went home, read them, front to cover. And I went back about 2 weeks later. I went and got a haircut. I went back 2 weeks later. Mr. Best, nice to meet you. Shaking hands and long lost cousin, kind of. And anyway, long story short, I ended up enlisting in the United States Air Force. And this was in the Vietnam era, right at the end of the war.
Oh, wow.
And so I got assigned. I went through basic training, through technical school. They wanted me to go in as an officer. I said no. I said I want to learn something.
Okay.
So I did.
Yeah.
I went in and enlisted, and I ended up in the Air Force Specialty Code was 431, which is aircraft maintenance and engineering. And so I was assigned to a C-130 unit eventually.
Wow.
And my first assignment was to Southeast Asia.
Oh, wow.
And so we were there for a while. The war was just finishing.
Right.
And we hauled people out of there a few places, from over to Clark in the Philippines. And then they sent me back to my original assignment, which was at Pope Air Force Base, or the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg.
Okay.
And we were there for the rest of my 4 years. I only spent 4. And a lot of TDY work to Europe, the diplomatic run all over the Mediterranean, North Africa and stuff. And so I got out of the service and I put paperwork in to go to flight engineer school on the C-130.
Got it.
Yeah, they said, well, yeah, you're good. You're what we're looking for. So I got orders.
Okay.
I was doing an engine run school at Pope Air Force Base, where it was in North Carolina. And I come out of there one day and there's this guy in the lobby who was down there from Lockheed Aircraft in Georgia, the manufacturer of the C-130, obviously. And he said, you re-enlisting or what are you going to do? I said, well, I don't know, why? And so he gave me a bunch of information and we had an interview similar to this, actually. It wasn't filmed. But,
Right.
and he said to me, we'd like to hire you. And so I gave this some real serious thought.
Yeah.
I said, well, I want 4 more years of this. And back then they weren't given the re-enlistment bonuses like they are now.
Right.
Close. course, we were broke as GIs.
Yeah.
And so it kind of caught my attention. So I did it. So I came down to Marietta. Well, no, I didn't come down to Marietta. I went to Marietta, got the interview, got the job, and they sent me. They ended up sending me to Saudi Arabia.
Ooh.
As a trainer and an instructor for the Royal Saudi Air Force.
Oh wow.
So
that must have been a culture shock.
Oh, indeed it was. I mean, I'm very culturally minded anyway.
Right.
Those people that know me well know that, and so it was a whole new world, you know.
Right.
I mean, I had seen some of the Arab countries and stuff, but not to live there at all.
Right.
And so I ended up over there for 4 years, Nestor. And
wow.
I had a year and a half left on my tour, my assignment that I signed up for. I could have renewed and stayed over there. And that's where I was doing a game with Mark Johnston, my dear friend of over 50 years. He just, God rest his soul, just passed away recently, a couple of years ago. And he had the plate, and I had the bases. We were umpires. This is Lockheed City, where we were living.
Right.
And there was this team that had come down from Yanbu, about 180 miles north of there. And it was like an all-star thing. They came down to play the Lockheed women. Okay. And so I had the base pass, as I mentioned, and the second baseman was a looker. Well, guess what? Became my future wife.
Oh, look at that.
We got married, like, I want to say 6-8 months later.
Wow.
I lived in Saudi Arabia for the rest of my tour. We decided we would leave.
Yeah.
Went back to Saratoga.
Okay.
And we stayed there, and we weren't doing much. Of course, fortunately, I did pretty well over there financially, so I was able to sock enough money away to serve me well for years down the road.
Right.
So I was playing in a fast pitch softball tournament, or not tournament, league actually. Right. In Schenectady, actually. And and basically doing nothing. My wife was living with my parents, and so I come home one day and my mom says, "Bobby, you get a phone call," because I put out some resumes, to different places. Yeah. And she said it was, I don't know, it was a 305 area code. I said, "Really?" So I said, "Yeah, I'll call it back." So I didn't call that immediately, immediate day, but I called back, and it was Howard Hinton, who was the Vice President of Maintenance and Engineering for Southern Air Transport.
Oh, wow.
Now, somehow they got wind of my background. Right. And the intelligence work I had done and stuff in the Middle East and in the Air Force as well. And they said, "We'd like to fly you down and have a chat." And I said, "When?" He goes, and this was this was a Wednesday. Right. He goes, "How's Friday sound?" I said, "What?" He says, "Yeah." I says, "Fine." He said, "Okay, there'll be a round trip ticket waiting for you at Albany Airport." Oh, wow. And it was an early flight, and so he communicated the time and this and that. I flew down. Right. I had the job before I even got on the airplane to fly back to Miami. I was home that night for supper. Oh, wow. And so they gave me 2 weeks to get my affairs together. Right. My wife and I rented a Penske truck, a Hertz, I think it was at the time, a deuce and a half. I had a Triumph Spitfire. Okay. We drove the truck after it was rented to this friend of mine who was a mechanic out down the road from Saratoga, and we put the car on the lift, lifted it up even with the bed of the truck, and we drove the Spitfire right in the back of the truck and shocked the wheels down. Oh my! Threw all our furniture and all that stuff around it, and all the stuff that we wanted to take. Yeah. And we were off to Miami. Oh my goodness! That was my first time in Miami, and that would have been in July of '83. Oh, look at that! So that was my first introduction to I had never set foot in the state of Florida in my life. Right. Not even flying with the 130s. I went to Biloxi a couple times, but not there. Yeah. And so here I am in Miami Springs. They put us up at the Holiday Inn, the treetop Holiday. Yeah. And we stayed there, and they kept me around for like a week, briefing me and all of this, and I was helping with some of the airplanes on the ramp that they had. And finally they said, "Listen, we need an assistant station manager in San Juan, Puerto Rico."
Okay.
I said, really? I'd never been to Puerto Rico, my wife either. Well, of course, my wife's loving this, being
Sure.
from Britain, And so we went over there. We spent some time there, a few months, almost a year. And then I got a call one day. I wasn't real happy with the station manager down there and how he was conducting business.
Right.
So I was vying for something else if they had it. So they called me and they said, "You want to go to Houston and run the station in Houston?" So I did that.
Oh,
I was
wow.
there for a year.
Yeah.
We bought a freaking house.
Nice.
And I guess it was right at 6 months afterwards. We were running for SMB stage lines to like Dallas, Wichita Falls, or Wichita, Kansas,
Right.
Oklahoma City, and then in Chicago, and then reverse route back. And so he said, "We'd like you to come to Miami as the general foreman here in Miami because SMB is shutting down their contract with us."
Ooh.
Now I got a house, right?
Right.
So this was a concern.
Yeah.
I really don't. I'm not one of these people that likes to buy property and rent it and all that.
Sure.
I stay clear of that. So anyway, 2 weeks before we left Houston, we went down to Sam White Oldsmobile, which was a block and a half from the Astrodome. Bought a brand new 84 Hurst Oldsmobile.
Ooh, nice.
So my wife, myself, and our Russian Husky, Samoyed, jumped in the car and drove 24 hours straight to Miami.
Oh, wow.
And we ended up, I rented a house at 689 LeBaron Drive. Look
at that.
Which was a woman that worked in the head office for Jim Bastian, who was the owner. And she had a house on 689, which we were renting it. And she said, "Bob," I used to file my expense reports with her and stuff. She says, "Listen, this is perfect because I have a tenant that's leaving."
Yeah.
And so we drove 24 hours. We get there. She said, "The keys will be in the mailbox." Keys were. Walk in. House is fully furnished.
Oh, nice.
Fresh sheets on the bed.
Yeah.
It was a big backyard for the dog to run, and so that was that. And then Southern Air, I did that. I ended up working my way up the ladder at Southern and became director of maintenance and engineering for the airline.
Wow.
I was the youngest director of maintenance and engineering for a major 121 carrier at Wilcox Field.
Oh, nice.
Maybe there's been somebody that's beat that record since then. I hope so. But so we did that for 4 years, and then I left there. No, Southern Air was gosh, I was there 7 years, I guess. And then from there, I went to work for a company who was very good friends with Howard Hinton, aforementioned, the guy that hired me. And it was QC Labs and QC Metallurgical up in Hollywood. So I did that. Meanwhile, we had relocated and I bought a house in the Redland.
Oh, okay.
After 3.5 years at 689
LeBaron Drive, right.
And then I started with these other jobs with the QC Metallurgical, as I mentioned. And then Eastern Airlines called me. They were going through a strike at the time, and it was a friend of mine who was a manager of quality control.
Right.
And he said, "I need a flight line supervisor."
Okay.
I said, "Wow, cool, I'll do it." It beat Nestor driving 104 miles round trip to work every day.
Sure.
In my 52 Chevy pickup with a 283. Yeah. So anyway, I did that, and then from there, after I left that, the Eastern thing, I went to where did I go then? It's a long story, I went to. I started a company, Arrow Air, I beg your pardon.
Arrow Air. Okay.
Mike Landers called me one day. He says, "I need a director of maintenance and engineering."
Got it.
And so I did that.
And that was based out of MIA.
MIA
Right.
also, yeah. So I did that. Eastern was gone by then.
Right. So this is, now you're in the 90s at this point?
Yeah,
Okay.
right there. You got it.
Right.
You're good. Yep. And so I did that for a while, and then that kind of went awry. George Batchelor was the owner of that. So
Okay.
many residents would know who that is. He was years on the field.
Okay.
And George Batchelor used to walk into morning meetings. The whole fleet was briefed. And he'd walk in at the last airplane, and he'd go start over. That's the kind of guy he was.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah, tough customer. Nonetheless, so I finished doing that, And then Mike Landers and I decided we would start a company.
Okay.
And we did, Aero Supply and Consulting. We ended up in West Medley, and we started that, and we were buying and selling tooling. And we got the bright idea one day that, you know what, why don't we go to Boeing and try to get licensed? So we did.
Oh, wow.
So they sent a whole team, like six guys from Washington, Renton, Washington, near Seattle. And they served out, and we ended up getting blessed by Boeing.
Getting the license, wow.
Yeah, and I to this day, and I did that with Mike for almost 20 years.
Wow.
We were manufacturing tooling
Right.
from Boeing, from the engineering drawings.
Wow.
And that was a real experience because I had never had that aspect of aviation, you know.
Right, right.
Relative to the manufacturing side, you know. So it was really, real eye opener. So anyway, we did that, and then Mike, 2008 now we're into something like that.
Right.
And the market and everything took a nosedive.
Yeah, I remember.
And so did Aero Supply and Consulting because nobody was paying us and stuff, and it just got it got ugly. We were laying people off little by little by little.
Yeah.
It was I mean, those are the worst thing you can do in your life is tell somebody that we.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm a faith-based guy, you know, and it's just tough. It's a nut to try and do that. So that ended, and so then I really didn't have anything to do, and you know, here we are, 2008. So I said, you know what, Claire, I'm going to start a landscaping company.
Oh, look at that.
So I did. I bought Bob Moorhead, God bless his soul. He had the company that I ended up buying from his wife.
Right.
So I did a landscaping company for 5 years.
Oh, look at that.
I had 2 or 3 guys. I had 5 at one time. And then one day I was doing something, a yard. I had like a 52-incher and a 36 to get in the gates and stuff.
Sure.
So the 52-incher, I was under a tree. I cut the whole property. It was about 1.5 acres. And I said to myself, I'm like 62 years old or something here.
Right.
And I was already on the city council by then, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I said, what am I doing? What am I doing? 2 weeks later, I sold the company.
Got it. Okay.
And then I just did nothing but I did nothing. I did plenty, but I was out of working for, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and some weekends, So I was out of that. So that's basically my work history. And as I mentioned, in 2001, I ran for the first time.
Yeah.
And caused a runoff and lost to Rob Youngs.
Oh, that's right.
Who's a dear friend of mine, by the way. And Rob and I really, had some great conversations. He's a banking lawyer by trade. And he lives on Bass Lake Court right now. Him and his wife.
He's a good guy.
Esterine is his wife's name. He certainly is. And I lost anyway in 2001. A friend of mine, Wally Thomas, many residents know Wally Thomas, Wally and Tamara. They were big in the Grace Lutheran Church over the years. Wally says, after I was in that election, it was about to be the election, he said, we went over and had a drink at his house one day, and he says to me, he says, look, he says, Bob, you might not win this election, but by God, come back in 2 years and you will.
Right.
Well, I didn't like the atmosphere. That was the same year Billy Bain ran for the first time.
Right, right.
And won.
Yeah.
And I supported Billy back then. And nonetheless, I didn't see the right chemistry in 2003.
Okay.
Because I had not, so in 2005, I said, this is it. So I ran against an incumbent, Mr. Eric Elza.
Oh, yeah.
And I beat him.
Yeah, yep.
And I never looked back. I ran it from 2005 to 2013. I had to sit 14 and 15. I came back in 15, won again.
Yeah.
After defeating another incumbent, Mr. Michael Windrum.
Yep, that's right.
He was a one-term councilman. And I didn't like the way he was representing my seat. I'll be perfectly honest.
Okay.
And Mike and I are friends today.
Sure.
And Eric and I were too. I mean, politics is what it is, but it's still a small community,
It is.
And so, yeah, then I 13 to 23, 13. Yeah, 13, 14, 15. 15 to 23. Then I had to sit.
Right.
And so 2 years went by. I tried to keep my ear to the ground and attend council meetings.
Sure.
pick brains and do what I had to do, talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so here I am in 25. And the only reason I'm doing this is because it's the next logical step for me,
Okay.
quite frankly. I have the experience. I worked for 3 or 4 city managers, 3 mayors, I guess. And the only reason I'm really interested is because that seat is open right now.
Right, right.
And it just makes an awful lot of sense. And I think I've got the leadership skills to to bring forward, certainly the experience, the education, the service clubs that I've been in. God, what haven't I been in this town? I'm still an inactive member of the Lions Club.
Right.
Historical Society. Blessed Trinity, I'm extremely active in Blessed
Yes.
Trinity, of which I'm a lay minister. Taught catechism for 10 years,
Yeah.
RCIA for 2. I've been a lector for 18. And I took a 2-year course. It was a master's level course on lay ministry and was confirmed a lay minister by the Archdiocese of Miami.
Wow.
So and I'm still very active in the church. And,
Yeah.
so and you know, that's just good for the soul. I don't know how else to put it.
Right, right.
And regardless of your faith, you know,
Yeah.
there's something else. It's not all about us, you know. So,
Amen.
Bob,
Bob,
that's pretty much it. I'm sorry I took
No,
most of the interview.
no, it's okay.
Talking about me.
I do want to ask you what you know, because you have served so much on council. What are you most proud of? You know, as you've been on council, what do you look back and goes, you know, really proud of, you know, these things?
Well, I'm proud of the way that I've represented people.
Okay.
I'm proud of the fact that I read every packet, be it 2 inches or 6 inches thick. Sometimes twice, if I have to, over issues that are necessary to read twice.
Right, right.
Sometimes you got to stand on your head reading some of this legalese stuff, you know. I'm also pretty proud of some of the projects that we've accomplished. Although some controversial, of course, you're going to have that.
Right.
But slow, steady progress. You know, slow, steady progress, and keep the flavor of this town the way it's intended to basically what I say on my posters that are all over town. Defending our legacy.
Right.
That's about me.
So, Bob, if you become mayor, what are some of the top items on your list, on your agenda?
Well, targeted development with caution.
Right.
Protection of green space for sure. I think safety initiatives could be improved. Remember we used to have the block captains and all that stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Where's that going?
Yeah,
I think that could be.
There's some.
There's
know
something
that,
in the.
I know there's a meeting coming up this month.
Yes.
So.
Correct.
Yeah, there are some things
Something
in the works
wind, but I'm talking about like actual representation. And of course now the city has with that click system. There's a number that you dial.
Right.
If you see something out of the ordinary.
Yeah, so for code enforcement sort of thing.
Well, no, just police and stuff, anything.
Yeah. So, well, we'll get into some of that. What as you're going door to door. And talking to residents, what are you hearing from folks in terms of top issues for residents here in Springs?
2 things: parking,
yep,
and taxes.
Taxes, okay.
And I explain to people. I've explained it 2 debates now.
Yeah.
That your tax burden from the overall of what you get from the county every year.
Yeah.
Your tax burden for Miami Springs is 12%.
Right.
That's minuscule. You know, you want to talk about reducing taxes, I start with the school board, school taxes.
Sure.
And of course, that's necessary too, because what do you know, you have to educate the children, the kids and the young adults, you know, that's got to be done. So what I try to explain to residents is again, back to the targeted development. There's 2 gold mines, one of which we spent a ton of money on in this town, and that was annexation.
Yeah.
Now, between annexation and the bed tax, let's not even talk about the bed tax.
Yeah.
If we were to be awarded that unincorporated property in Miami Springs, our millage rate would go down to 4.9%.
Yeah, it's a big game changer.
Now, if you add the bed tax to that, we'd be independently wealthy. We could do anything we wanted to do in this town.
Right.
So those are 2 gold mines. I stress that to the residents. And I tell them that, you know, the burden of your taxes is really not Miami Springs. I mean, you know, as much as people want to try and keep the millage to what it is, and over my years on the council, I know that we've kept it down and we reduced it. There's some people running for office right now the claim that taxes were reduced, the millage rate was reduced
Right.
every year, or every year in the
Right.
budgetary process. And that's not true, because I know that for a fact. That's a big thing. Targeted development and the bed tax and annexation. Now, to achieve that, it's my view that we have to develop our diplomatic skills. For instance, we always only, in partnership with our lobbyists,
Right.
which is Becker Prolikov, we target usually only our county commissioner. Well,
Right.
I think that can be expanded upon and improved, because it takes 7 votes in the county commission to push anything across.
But we do have to get support from our representative.
Well, which at the moment is a concern. I did hear, and I don't know this to be cast in concrete, that he was getting an appointment to the ambassadorship to Panama.
Yeah, that's the report. It hasn't happened
that's
yet.
That's the skinny. I know. And yes, I know, sir. You're quite right.
But that is the skinny. That's the same thing I'm hearing.
Mr. Cabrera is a fine man. But he's certainly done no favor. He voted against.
Yeah.
And that particular issue, and we were devastated.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that particular issue, Cabrera did not have the city of Miami Springs or the village of Virginia Gardens best interests at heart.
Indeed, he did not.
Yeah.
But God bless him. Hey.
Good guy.
He's tied up with what he's tied up with, and he marches to a different tune than I do.
Right.
But anyway, so let's keep our fingers crossed as residents of Miami Springs that'll change, and hopefully get that individual, he or she, whoever it might be, on our side. But I'm talking about going out to not just District 5, but 1, 2, 3, all 13 of them.
Right.
And get these people considering us, considering what our needs are. And we can work with them. We can do, if something comes to the commission that they need our vote, we work with them.
Sure.
I think that could be done more effectively.
Yeah.
And
we've had other commissioners who came to remember that, his name escapes me, but there was a commissioner who came down and spoke. It wasn't our representative, but he came down.
Yeah,
and he spoke.
Gilbert.
Oliver Gilbert, yes.
Yes.
And he came down, and it was a packed meeting, but he was very eloquent and expressed, and he allayed concerns that the residents had.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example of what you're alluding to.
It is indeed.
The other representatives also need the voice. From time to time may need some favorable influence from Miami Springs.
That's correct. And you were at the Historical Society thing when the Opalaka presentation was made, were you not?
No, I wasn't able to make it.
A contingent came and spoke from Opalaka.
Yeah.
It's one of the three sister
cities. Yes.
Artists, as you're aware. And I sat at the table with 2 of the commissioners from the city council in Opalaka, and kind of laid that groundwork already.
Sure.
So but that's only 2 commissioners now.
Right.
Ours and it would be them. But there's another 11.
Yeah.
And Daniel Levine Cava happens to be a very good friend of mine, so that we got that going for us.
Sure.
Down the road. So yeah, targeting diplomacy, it's very important, and we can get we can get our lobbyists to work harder in that area for us.
Sure.
Not just trips to Tallahassee once a year.
Right.
2 or 3, which I did a couple of times.
Yeah. But we need right now help with the county. I know there was a plan with the Live Local plan using some airport real estate to turn into 3 towers, 10 stories tall. And
I don't know if you know the Paul Harvey on that one. The rest of the story.
You can by all means share the rest of the story
and your site. I'll be happy to share it with folks. This was uncovered by someone in our municipal government. I'm not going to tell you who, because it's not important. I don't want to speak out of school, of course. But it was noted that the plan for that particular project for the 3 high rises that they wanted to do, the workforce housing was a trick name they were using for it, which would kill our density, by the way. Absolutely destroy it.
Yeah.
Come to find out that there's 3 runways at Miami International Airport at Wilcox Field. It used to be different, but they got that new one in now, the big one, 13,000 feet. Well, they changed it. The farthest one away from 36th Street is runway 9.
Okay.
The one in the middle is 8 right. The one closest to 36th Street is 8 left.
Okay.
Well, lo and behold, the FAR's Federal Aviation Regulations state that a building no higher than 4 stories can exist, what is it, a half a mile from the runway.
Okay.
It killed the whole project. It just shot it like a balloon with a
Right.
with a pin. Because now they're wrestling and anyway, the developers came back, the folks that were going to handle this,
Yeah.
and they said, no, we're gonna have to get a little creative, a little more creative.
Yeah.
So that kind of died for that reason.
Yeah.
And so, but again,
So the airport works sometimes as a blessing.
and certainly, Nestor, and in this case, it certainly was.
Right.
Sure.
Beautiful.
So that, and what else I said? Oh, I think that I would like to see us bring a grant writer in-house.
Yeah.
We're farming that right now, and I'm not real happy with the results we're getting. So that's something that I'd like to explore.
Internally.
We'll find the money to do that. But the other thing is we also have we also farm our city planner, and by the charter we have to have a city planner.
Right.
We can farm it as long as we satisfy the activity.
Got it.
So we're doing that, and I'm not real happy with how that's being handled right now either.
Okay.
So that's just a couple things, for your information.
So, Bob, going back to the residents, so part of it you said the parking, and did I hear you right? You said speeding was one of the items that.
I didn't mention speeding.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But no, we can talk about that in a minute. But the parking, I told them at the thing that I've said this numerous times, and I still say it. We've done study after study after study after study in the city to do parking. Where the police parking lot is, build a garage here. Well, how much closer is that going to be than where you park anywhere now where there's no parking and get to where you want to go? Longer, probably.
Right.
Or we wanted to at one time build a parking lot, and we explored this, spent money researching it, had to do a study.
Right.
And they wanted $38,000 per space to put 32 spots in.
It's expensive.
That went away.
Yeah.
There was no appetite for that.
Sure.
Period. So Jim Borgman did a thing, and I don't know if I ever told you this, but I've told many people.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Right? He stood in the gazebo one day and took this project on himself. Didn't cost the city a cent.
Yeah.
And he said within a half mile of the middle of the gazebo, there's over 500 parking places.
Mm-hmm.
So do we have a parking problem or do we have a convenience problem? People that go to Miami Springs Eye Care or something,
right?
And they drive there and they have an appointment and they get there and gosh, there's no place to park.
Yeah.
Well, for heaven's sakes, you can find a place to park. It's River Cities Festival. That's the greatest one. Nobody has a problem finding a place to park during the River Cities Festival, and that's 3 days.
Right.
Yet when all the dust is cleared and the River Cities is over, everything, now there's no parking. So I don't know. We're adding the city right now, this seated council right now, just actually it was J.C. Jimenez's idea to I'm not in favor of losing green space either, and not much was lost.
Right.
You're going to get almost 20, I think it's 22 parking spaces between the two sides of the common
on Curtis Parkway. Yeah.
And so the offset on the town center that people were complaining, it was almost the exact same number of parking places. It's fixed.
So, well, we'll move from parking.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
And speeding now, yeah, that's another thing.
So on the speeding, a lot of folks have been saying, hey, listen, Castillo is doing a great job. And there's a lot of good things, and it's been very visible. I see it myself.
Oh yes. You're absolutely right. I've seen it since he was installed chief.
Yeah, but the cops can't be on every road all the time, and
you could have 60 cops in this town. You still wouldn't be everywhere,
But something that does provide relief is traffic calming in their traffic circles, speed bumps, speed humps. This. What's the appetite to address and maybe add, and obviously a circle is expensive, and I know they just put one on East Drive.
The mini circle.
Yeah, they're very expensive to install, but speed humps and speed bumps may be a little bit more affordable solution that we can integrate. I probably get more complaints on South Drive more than any other street.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, a stop sign, a yield sign, speed bumps,
Yeah.
any traffic calming measures.
Yeah.
It's got to go through Miami-Dade County. We don't have the unilateral authority to be able to install these things. We can't just go out there and, like, wouldn't it be great if there was movable speed bumps? You could just move them from place to place. I mean, that's, but.
So we circled back to county relationships.
Yep. Exactly right.
Yeah.
We sure do, sir.
So, talking about a county road in particular, you know, I did an update, I think it was towards the end of earlier this year, on the Circle, and we were averaging something like a car accident every 10 days on the Circle.
You know, and when I was on the council,
Yeah.
I mean, I could still get it if I want to, but I haven't. I got one about 4 months ago. They still publish the police report every month of all activity, all crimes,
Right.
and stuff. It is considerably improved over what it used to be with the old Circle.
Uh-huh.
You can take that to the bank, trust me, because I used to study that like a hawk.
Right. Well, there are some that aren't too happy.
Yes, there are those,
you know,
of course. You know, you can't please everybody in this town. You try.
Do you think there's room for improvement, improving that Circle?
Improving the Circle?
Yeah.
Well, one thing I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt,
Yeah.
and again, I've lived in a few places around the world, Miami Springs, and in this country for that matter,
Right.
Miami Springs' old Circle was the only circle in the world that I'd ever seen or heard of that bowed down to traffic coming across the bridge from Hialeah.
Sure.
We had to stop for that traffic.
Yes, yes.
They fixed that with the new Circle.
Right. Except that they still don't stop.
Well, you know what I do? You know what I do, and maybe the residents might want to hear this. It's just a small little thing.
Right.
I don't know, but every time I go through there, and sometimes I'll drive around the circle just a couple of times, if I got some time to kill. And the people that stop, I'll flash them the peace sign. Thanks for stopping.
Yeah.
So, you're going to get road rage wherever you are. People are going to get.
Well, yeah, look, and I'm just going to take personal experience. It's not a pleasant call when your wife calls you and says, honey, I just got in a car accident because someone hit me on the Circle.
Uh-oh.
And,
No, of course not.
And you're, flying down there, make sure she's okay, and you get there, and of course she's in tears, and and you're going, okay, the car's a little bit banged up, no worries, and then you talk to her, goes, oh no, no, dude, you came into the Circle, you didn't, on the Circle, coming from, crossing from one side of Ponciana to the other side of Ponciana, and getting hit is not pleasant. And then just in the same week, we're eating on Sushi Sake, and we're just outside the cafe, and then you hear right there.
Wow.
And so, it's one thing to see the reports, and another thing when you see it happening right in front of you, and it happens to someone you love, and
well, again, here's the cut through, right? The cut through, the Ludlam,
right,
the Curtis Parkway, the South Drive, East Drive. Those are the four major ones.
Yeah.
Those are, and, so, I think. Maybe I was talking to Matt Castillo, the chief of police, the other day about that, actually, this very thing. And we were kicking around a few ideas. So, yeah, there's room for improvement with that, Nestor. Of course, there's room for improvement with everything.
Sure.
Nothing's perfect. I mean, Springs isn't perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But all we can do is strive to make it better.
Yes.
And that's my goal as mayor.
Amen. Bob, as far as anything, do you talk to residents that surprised you, that they brought up a topic or an issue or something that may have surprised you?
Well, the two that I mentioned to you earlier are really the parking and taxes. I mean, those are the two big things.
Yeah.
Relative to parking, I also have heard from a couple of some handicapped people. They said that we could do better at adding more handicap spots.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes, I did hear that.
I've been hearing that.
I did hear that.
Yeah.
So that's something to certainly consider. But again, we're land poor. I mean, you can only, we hardly have it. It's almost like you got to raise something to build something in this town.
Yeah, we're built out.
Oh, the other thing that I should mention while we're on that, about some of these properties, I've got a pet peeve with how the rent structure happens around here. It continues to go up.
Right.
Just like anything else, it never goes down. And the businesses, particularly the businesses. We have so many absentee landlords in this town.
Right.
They live in Michigan, they live in Texas, they live in New York, they live in Georgia,
right,
whatever.
Right.
And all they care about is getting their monthly rental check. And we went through a big program back in the day to get people to spruce up the front of their buildings, and we offered them incentives to do it with paint and materials and what have you. Few did it. Some did it, but the majority didn't. In particular, there's 2 buildings in this town. One by the farm stores, that big, it used to be Ma Bell.
Right.
AT&T got it.
Yeah.
It's almost a city block.
Yes, it is.
With parking.
Yes, sir.
It's been abandoned for like 15 years. Abandoned.
It's still owned by AT&T,
I assume. I'm not going to go on record as saying that, but I assume it is. And there's another one, also AT&T on 36th Street.
Yeah, right there at
going back toward the Airport Cafe.
Yeah.
My wife and I walked by it the other day, and we just did it just to look at the frontages of some of these buildings on 36th Street.
Yeah.
And some are in such ill repair, it's ridiculous. So yeah, the Airport Marine District, of course. Sure. But I've always been of the opinion that if you're going to conduct a major project along 36th Street, and of course it takes money, anything else, but the frontage of those businesses should not be on 36th Street. It should be facing north. Because, gosh, you got like some of those sidewalks are like 4 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't take any more away. There's just no more space, So, and then you could have parking and all kinds of stuff behind it. There'd be enough room to do that.
Right.
Because you got like what, half a block or almost a block where you get to the barricades where we put the fences up.
Sure.
Which, by the way, that was another good move.
Yeah.
People aren't getting into those neighborhoods anymore.
Yes.
That was a major league move.
Yeah, residents definitely, especially on the east side of Springs, have really benefited from that.
Yes, they sure did.
Bob, anything else that we haven't covered here tonight that you want to share with the audience and the community?
Well, we could probably we probably finished about 3 chapters in the book. No, that's right. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I gotta thank you, and I know that I've not really paid much attention to your site, and I really sat down over the years, that is.
Yeah.
But I sat down the other day and did some soul searching on this, and I said, you know what? And it's not just because I'm running for mayor.
Sure.
It's just something that came to me. I said, I really need to get involved more with that brand of media, which I normally don't do.
Right.
I'm a pen and paper guy, right from the heart, believe me.
Yeah.
And I write in pencil. I write all my speeches. When I deliver speeches, I write it all in pencil big enough so I can see it.
Okay.
And I like reading the daily newspaper every day.
Right.
While we still have it around. I don't like reading it digitally.
Yeah.
Because again, all those years I spent with those Boeing drawings, I was 50 years old before I had to wear glasses.
Yeah.
And I put it off to those drawings, did that to me.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I don't think so, but I'd like to thank you for inviting me on behalf
we appreciate
of your business to
come
here and spend some time with you, and I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you being gracious with your time, and we definitely appreciate that. And for residents who are interested in voting on election day, want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you, learn more about you?
Well, I have an email. I'm not smart enough to know how to set up a website. I do have people that can do that for me.
Right.
But I don't have one at the moment.
Okay.
I suppose once I'm elected mayor, I should probably think about doing that. But then I'll get the government stuff and all of that.
Sure.
Versus my private. But I have, my email is Hawkeye, lowercase, HAWKEYETWO @iCloud.com.
So Hawkeye
TWO.
Not the number, but the actual spelled out TWO.
Hawkeye 2
@ iCloud.com.
That is correct, sir.
All right. And if they want to call you or
if they
text
want to
you?
call me, they can reach me on my cell phone, and that number would be 786-319-0786.
Perfect. And when's election day?
Well, a week from last Monday. 2 weeks from last Monday, sorry.
Yeah.
2 weeks from last Monday. I might mention before we leave, if you will, that I've been part of a project on 36th Street there as a veteran. I'm the treasurer of the War Memorial Committee.
Yes.
And the scheduled opening date, hard opening, Miami Springs, hard opening, after 3.5 years.
Yes.
Is going to be the 31st, the day before the election, the Monday, at 10 o'clock in the morning at the memorial.
Beautiful.
And the invitations are going out to key people and people that were involved. As a matter of fact, Victor Vasquez, Councilman Vasquez, and I have a meeting with the city manager this coming Friday at 10 o'clock at the 9:30 at the Curtis Mansion for breakfast.
Right.
He's bringing down the Assistant Director of the Veterans Administration from Washington.
Wow, that's great.
We have a lobbyist up there who works for us as needed, who's bringing the gentleman down. And so we're going to have that opportunity, and we're going to set up a nice breakfast and stuff and be able to talk to him about it. Maybe, I don't know, he won't be able to stay for the Monday thing, but but maybe Mr. Wolf will, our lobbyist.
Beautiful.
So we're going to have the county mayor there. We got some dignitaries coming, and I hope all the veterans of Miami Springs will come too. I really do.
So that's Monday, March 31st.
The 31st.
At the War Memorial.
At the War Memorial.
And then election day is?
April 1st.
And it's at the Golf and Country Club?
There is 3 modes. Obviously, you can vote by mail.
Yeah.
You have until tomorrow.
Okay, there you go.
If you have not
right.
sought to, because remember now, every election, you've got to renew your request.
Right.
Every election. It didn't used to be like that. They changed it. So you have to be able to get that in if that's your desire, your mode of voting.
Right.
By the 20th of March.
Okay.
In lieu of that, there are 2 days for early voting. They would be the Friday the 28th at City Hall.
Right.
7 to 7, I think it is. And
I think it's shorter time.
Yeah,
right?
I think they
things like
narrow it down.
Either 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., something like that during business hours. I think.
I forget all the elections I've run in, and I set up across the street from the City Hall in the shade.
Yes.
But I'm delirious as to the times and stuff. I just know I'm out there for the whole time.
Yeah. So it's the Saturday and Sunday before.
Saturday and Sunday. No. Friday, Saturday.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Friday, Saturday.
Friday, Saturday at the time that aforementioned by you.
Yeah.
They are shorter than
the election day. And the election day is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
And the election day is at the golf course.
Right.
On Curtis Parkway there. It's going to be one of the banquet rooms in the back.
Right.
And that'll be on April 1st.
Perfect.
April Fool's Day. How interesting.
Yeah. No, there's no jokes that day.
No.
We're going to announce who the winner is.
This wasn't purposely done either because
it's just the timing.
Timing, right?
Yeah. Well, Bob, we really appreciate thank you so much for making time for us and sharing, your vision for Miami Springs with the community, and wish you the best of luck on election day.
Thank you, Nestor. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks
appreciate
once
it.
again.